Welcome back to part 2. As you can see, it's in more bits than it ever has been, so I've not really got far. Well, I have, but it doesn't look like it. But you'll see what I've got up to. We're getting there. It might even start. The carbs are joined together. I've made the linkage part for that. I can get it running like that, which is good. I don't want to do too much more on the linkage because I need to prove that those carbs are going to work. So now I'm going to move on to this nose piece and extending that out. I've got to come out 50mm. What I plan to do, I've been out this morning and I've bought this faceplate for the lathe. Oh, exciting stuff. I'm going to bolt this nose into that. I'll make all the bits to bolt that to that. Centered to this front piece. I'm going to machine a thread into that and then come out 50mm. So that bit just screws in. I'll use the original bearing and the original seal in that front piece. And then make a longer shaft to suit. There's no keyways on these superchargers. The pulley just bolts into the end. I'm going to keep it like that when I make the longer shaft. I'll just make a flanged piece that pushes onto this end so that I can swap the pulleys over, make the pulleys bolt on. So I can swap them over when I'm at the track or whatever. And try and go a little bit faster, put a little bit more boost in it. So yeah, because I don't really know where we're going to start at the moment. It's a guessing game. That is the plan today. So now I've got to unbolt all of this, take it out, and try and fix it into that faceplate. So that's what we're dealing with. There's 2 bearings in there. And a seal that normally goes on the front. I'm going to reuse that one. It's just a drive shaft through there onto that disc with the 3 pins that locate into the coupling for the drive. Pretty simple. Could use that, just bore that out and use this on the new shaft, but I think I'll just remake it all. So we've just taken that shaft out and I can't see, it looks like to get that bearing off you have to press this off anyway, so we'll probably in that case use that on the new shaft. So this was my plan. I was going to pick up this bolt here, bolt through, and I was going to clamp it down here and over here because that's the only hole that lines up. I've just come up with a better way of doing it in the 3-jaw, which is annoying because I've just driven 40-50 odd miles to pick this faceplate up and paid £100 for it. I'll show you the other way. Here's option 2, which I think is a much better way of doing it. I've just spun up this mandrel. That diameter there is that inside diameter. So that's going to sit on there, bolt down through the middle. So there'll be no centering it up. And the tool will clear the bolt because there's plenty of room in there. So there's the front nose with the thread machined into it. That was a bit of a clencher because you don't find these bits on their own. If that fell out or I messed that thread up, we'd have to find another one. There's 2 different lengths of those as well, so you can guarantee the only ones that I'd find for sale, if there was any, would be the longer ones. And there's the extension piece. Screws in rather nice. Quite pleased with that. It's a bit tight on the end, but it's good. And there you go. Now I've got to clock it up in the 4-jaw and bore this for the bearing and the seal, and then I can make a shaft. First I'll probably put that back in and double check the length. So if we put a straight edge on the pulley there, we're not far away there. I'll make the shaft come out that far. Pretty happy with that. Gerlush. So there's the old shaft, and there's the new one I've made. Pressed the original end on it. It's worked out pretty well. It has got a spring that goes that side, which is kind of weird. It's more like a floating shaft, and I guess that spring's just making sure that you're always pressed into the coupling. Not really sure. I didn't want to redesign it and fix it. I think Eaton spend a lot more money on research, development, testing than I do, so we'll put that back in. Yeah, it just goes in there. Ugh. Like that. And then that obviously fits in there. Oh, this is hard one-handed. Hang on. There it is, all back together. You can see he has got a bit of movement there. But if that's the way Eaton designed it, that's the way it's staying. Just got to make the coupling now to go on there that the pulley is going to bolt to. So I think that's what I'll do now. So hopefully now I'm making a bit more sense. That's what I've just made. That's the flange that's going to sit on there with a bolt through the centre, and then the pulley I've got, I'm going to bore to suit this and drill the PCD in it, just so then I can swap over the pulleys as and when I need to. If I need to. I probably will. I might not. I don't really know. I don't know what I'm doing. So now I've bolted it back in. I need to make sure, or measure up to see what offset I have to bore into this, front to back, to line up with the belt. This is almost 1-to-1, this pulley. I'm hoping that I don't have to go bigger, because I'll have to move this filler neck across, which is more work than I wanted to do, because I believe this top tank is brass, and I haven't brazed anything for years and years and years, so that won't be fun. I've gone single V just for ease, because that's what's on there now. If it starts to slip, then I've got the tooling to make some, like a multi-V pulley, but I'll have to do it on every pulley here, which I don't really want to do. So just for the ease of it, I'm going to use that. But yeah, like I say, got to get it right front to back now, so make sure it's in line. I don't know as well, you can't really see it here, but I don't know whether to support this underneath here, because obviously it's got more tension on it trying to pull it down now than it should have, because it's longer. But I think we might just get away with it. But I can bracket off of the alternator bracket anyway, so we'll worry about that later on. But today, get that board out. and bolted on, hopefully. And then I can look into measuring up for a belt. Yeah! By the magic of video, there it is. Lovely. Bolt that on. That is dangerously close to this cap. I don't think that's going to work. Oh, what a nightmare. It's all rubber mounted as well, so when you're on the go, it's going to try and rub the belt there, I think. That needs to come across 20 mil. Good stuff. I've fixed the radiator filler neck problem. No radiator? No problem. I took it to a radiator specialist. He's going to move the neck over. I don't trust myself soldering it at all. It'll end up in a pile of bits because the header tank will split away from the core. I'm sure it will. So just take it to them. They can flow test it, pressure test it, move it where I want it. And all I've got to do is bolt it in and not worry about it. And now I can get on with the drive. There's the belt's turned up, but it's thrown up another problem, obviously, because it's one step forward, 2 steps back. And yeah, I'll show you. So what I was planning to do is put an idler on the back side of the belt there to push that in, give more of a drive onto this for less slipping, and guide it away from the radiator cap. But as you can see, if I do that, it's not really going to drive the water pump. So I'm going to have to put the idler this side, which does give it more drive here. The rad's gone anyway, so the cap's coming over. I have to make now an idler pulley to run on the back side of the belt and a bracket to come somewhere off the engine up onto there. I've raided my bearing stash and I've found a couple of bearings. So now I'm just going to turn up a pulley to go here and then figure out a bracket and where I'm going to pick up to mount the bracket, which will probably be those two or those two. Don't know yet. We'll worry about that in a minute. So there's the pulley that I've just made. Made a little spindle to go through the whole lot, push the bearings in, and a spacer pop on that side to keep it away from whatever I bolt it to. That is going to go on there. And I have to make a bracket now, which has to look nice, which is always the hardest part. I don't really want to pick up off of these water pump bolts because they're only M6. So I'm thinking these two, which are M10s, and this one, an M8, make a plate to go here and some sort of bracket that comes up around there and make that look the part, which is going to be quite hard, and that's probably the next few days gone. Just a job. Right, so I've made a bracket. That's all ready to bolt on. Trouble is, it's pulled where I've welded it. It's all pulled inwards like that. So it's not actually in line with the belt now, which is one of those things. It happens. It's worse when your welder's a mile that way and you can't hold it up to weld it. But there you go. We're going to cut this flange off, make a new one. And I'm going to space it out a bit more as well, because holding it up there, it sort of doesn't it needs to come out a little bit more. So I'll space the flange out, cut this flange off, square this up in the mill, and then weld that to the new flange that's spaced out, and hopefully we'll be onto something there. I'm also going to turn this so it's a bit more concave and the belt can sit in it and not try and wander. So yeah, make spacers, make flange, and then I'll be back with a bracket that fits. Idler bracket Mark II. I cut the old flange off, made a new flange, made these spacers to bring it out a bit more, squared this off while it was out, welded it all back together, and of course drilled the speed holes, which are the most important part. And that bolts up in there. It's all nice and square now. I'm going to put it back in and see how far, or if I need to space the idle roller out, and then probably remake the spindle, because I'm not happy with this one that I've made, because the diameter of the thread and the inside diameter of the bearing, the wall's a bit thin, and there's a possibility it could shear off. So I might make one that welds to that with a bolt in the end, but we'll put that on first. So I've made a new spindle to space it out right from the bracket. I'm going to weld that to the bracket, and I've slightly dished this pulley because the back of this belt isn't quite flat and I don't want to have it wandering around, so that goes on there. That will do. Got to order a circlip to go in there. Once that gets here, we can stick it all together, and that'll be that. So now that's done, I want to move on and go back to the carburetor. So I've rebuilt this one, cleaned it up, put all new seals and gaskets in it, thanks to Berlin Fuel Systems in Salisbury. Expensive, but they are the kiddies. They know what they're on about. If you get a problem with that, they'll have an answer. They're very good. I've taken out, I did ask them how to do that actually. I've taken out the fuel inlet here, a little bit of heat on it, and just sort of pull it out. That came out quite well. I've also taken out the crankcase breather port. So now I've got to come up with another way of getting fuel into it, and I'm going to block this crankcase breather off because I'm not going to use it. That's what I'm going to do now. Still undecided on this fuel inlet. It needs to come out at a 90-degree angle. I might just make a fitting that pushes in with a thread in it so I can screw in a fitting. Yeah, maybe. So that's that plug in. Done, pushed in, it's in there nice and snug. I think you'll agree, or hope you'll agree, that that looks a lot better than what the last owner did. You can see on the other carb there. I mean, it would have worked, but it is ugly. Also, this fitting's turned up. I could have used AN fittings, but honestly, I want this to look old. So this is off of an old Triumph motorcycle. I'm going to order up some brass, make a push-in fit in there with the 1/4 inch and the correct taper on for that. And then that should look like it's meant to be there, look nice and old. So I spent this morning machining up a couple of carburetor fittings to get over that problem. I spoke to a friend who's a lot cleverer than I am, and he said tap the carb and screw the fitting in because you don't want to push in one. So they can come out and spray all over the engine bay, which is bad. So I've done that this morning. I've clocked the carburetor up in the mill, drilled down through it and tapped it to M8. So that now screws into the carb. And this end, I put some flats on it so I can hold that end with the spanner, or screw it into the carb, hold that end with the spanner, and then screw that fitting in so it comes out nice. I think that looks better than any sort of anodized fitting, which will look right out of place on this car. And there's one on the carburetor. That just screws in. I've put a little fibre washer in there, and that's that. Little problem dealt with. Thank you for watching part 2. That'll do for now, I think. I've got some time off work next week, so I'm going to try and get it to run, because the rad's coming back. I just bung a Y piece in the fuel line, and I think we should be able to fire it up. Yeah. Like, subscribe, do all of that stuff. Thank you very much. Goodbye.